Right. Well, maybe I could at least do a quick introduction of what the recording is. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. This is the Domestic Violence Emergency Response Pilot RFA information session. Before we get started, I'll give a chance for Phil to introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Phil Thompson. I'm the contract specialist assigned to Best Start for Kids. So once we get this underway, I just want everybody to know that as a heads up, once the info sessions are over, any additional questions, comments, or concerns you may have, you'll need to send them to me. You can email me or you can call me. My information is in the Zoom grants posting. After this, trying to directly contact the project management team will be a violation of our procurement or King County's procurement policies and may end up with you being removed and not allowed to compete. So again, please don't do that. Ask me, I will get answers for you if you have something you need to talk about.
Sounds good. Thank you, Phil. I'm Hannah Mohammed. I'm the community-based parenting supports program manager. Chloe, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Hi, I'm Chloe Leipzig. I'm the Home-Based Services Program Manager.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Next slide, please. All right. Our agenda today is to give an overview of where this RFA sits, which is our Invest Early and Prenatal to 5 Supports body of work, provide an introduction to the RFA, review key elements of the RFA, and then save some time for questions and answers. Best Start for Kids has a wide range of supports. The large chunk of our levy, 50% of it, in fact, goes to our Invest Early, with the goal of reaching babies while they're still in that tummy, while they're still young and growing, and supporting their families, and ensuring that they have all the tools and resources to thrive. Then we want to make sure that we're sustaining that gain. So 37% of our levy goes to our 5 to 24 body of work. We know that the environment and spaces that communities live in matters. So our Community Matters work has about 8% of our levy. We put about 27 million in homeless prevention. We want to make sure all the organizations that we're working for also has all the tools and resources they need to best support families. So we provide capacity building supports. That's about 10 million of our levy. And we have 2 additional buckets that we added in the 2.0 iteration of this levy. Thank you to our voters for renewing this levy. That is our capacity capital projects. So ensuring that we're able to provide funds to improve infrastructures, as well as making sure families have access to childcare, affordable childcare, and data. And we want to make sure that what we're doing is working. So we provide about 5% of whatever's left over to data and evaluation. This RFA sits in Invest Early, which is prenatal to 5 supports. And on the P to 5 team, we really want to make sure that we're reaching families in every single environment that they're in. So we have a childcare body of work that supports childcare providers and families while they're in their childcare setting. We have a community-based parenting supports body of work that supports caregivers in the community environment. And then we go into families' home to provide support in the home environment. So that's our home-based services. This body of this RFA specifically is going to work with 2 of those strategies. That's home-based services and community-based parenting supports. In addition, we have a wide range of integration strategies that support our providers. This RFA is we'll be working with our innovation supports throughout the design and development and evaluation support. So they'll get supports in that area as well. For the community-based parenting supports, just in a snapshot, high level of what is the strategy, we really want to make sure that we're supporting caregivers and babies while they're still in the tummy up to the age of 5 and pregnant individuals. What we provide is peer-based support. So providers, we work with organizations and providers that reflect the experience, the lived culture, the language of the communities that they're serving. And this body of work has a wide range of supports, ranging from giving families access to basic needs supplies, diapers, wipes, car seats, having play and learn groups that is fun and interactive to get little kiddos ready for kindergarten, as well as providing caregiver classes, workshops, and supports to support our caregivers. We have lactation and perinatal support services, as well as working with birth workers and making sure that they have access to the professional development tools that they need. And all of these supports are provided in the community setting, and whatever community defines as their community environment. It could be a healthcare clinic, it could be a community center, it can be the library. And Chloe, I'll give you a second to introduce home-based services.
Thanks. And home-based services similarly focuses on that prenatal to 5 age range. And what home-based services does is meet families where they're at with ongoing relationship-based supports in the spaces that they call home. This could be a traditional home, it could be a shelter, it could be the park, just those spaces where families feel most comfortable. Home-based services through Best Starts provides services through a wide range of program models, from nationally implemented models that you might have heard of being implemented in other parts of the country or the state, to uniquely designed community models, which are designed by the community and implemented by the community in our local King County communities.
Thank you. So now focusing on this RFA, a little background on how this RFA emerged. So unfortunately, we are seeing an increase in domestic violence incidents across King County. In 2020 alone, domestic violence increased in ER visits by 48%. And our prenatal to 5 providers that we work with have mentioned that families are coming to them for support, and when they make referrals to domestic violence agencies, somewhere in that process there's a referral gap and the families are not getting connected. So that is where this RFA emerged from. The goals of this RFA is to work with a domestic violence organization to help us enhance that cross collaboration between our prenatal to 5 providers and domestic violence advocates. We want to create a warm pathway and have warm referrals to make sure families are getting connected to the vital supports that they need. We want the RFA to focus on providing concrete supports and resources to families impacted by domestic violence. In addition, this is a pilot, so we want to evaluate and refine the project and identify what works and what doesn't, so we can have recommendations for the future. A couple of definitions before we dig a little bit deeper. When we say domestic violence, we're referring to a pattern of abusive behavior in a relationship that's used by one partner to gain power, maintain power over, and control another partner. Domestic violence ranges in how it shows up. It could be physical, it could be sexual, it could be emotional, it could be economical, it could be psychological. So all of those forms of DV is what this RFA will be focused on. When we say referrals, we're referring to a process where caregivers are linked to the resources and supports that they need. So instead of giving a caregiver a phone number and say, here's the DV agency, please contact them, we want to ensure that our P2 providers and the DV organization that's funded is able to create a way for that families are handheld in that process to ensure that they get the supports that they need. And you'll hear us refer to P2 partner programs. So in our 2 buckets, we have a wide range of organizations that we work with, and we will have a subset of those organizations that will participate in the pilot. All right, next slide, please. For visual people like myself, here is a visual of what we're seeing in the landscape. So we have our prenatal to 5 providers at the very top corner, our families at the bottom. We are making there's referrals happening, and somewhere in that process, there's a gap. So the referrals are not being connected. At the very end corner, you see domestic violence advocates. And through this RFA, we're hoping to have a visual that looks more like this. So families are at the very top. Here's the prenatal to 5 providers, the domestic violence advocates, and we are seeing a connection in between all of the spaces. There's a connection between prenatal 5 providers and families. There's a connection between prenatal 5 providers and domestic violence advocates, as well as a connection between domestic violence advocates and families. So there is not a process where where we're hoping to see those referral gaps. We're hoping to eliminate it. Some core components of this project that we want whomever funded to focus on is ensuring that this is survivor-centered. So participants in the program, which is the families experiencing domestic violence or at risk of experiencing domestic violence, really lead the process to choose their goals, define their safety needs to them, and really help shape what the supports that they need. We also want to make sure that the services are flexible. So make sure that they meet the the survivors wherever they're at. And confidentiality is very key. It's always important, but even more important given the nature of this body of work. So we want confidentiality has to be centered. And then we're hoping to provide flexible financial assistance. So this is referring to short-term financial assistance that families can access to meet the financial barriers that they have. It can look like transportation, it can look for childcare, employment, housing assistance, medical, legal fees. So whatever those short-term financial needs that those families have, we're hoping to support them through this RFA. Right. And then now looking at the implementation of how this RFA will be implemented. It'll be implemented in 3 different phases: the pilot development, pilot implementation, and then post-pilot evaluation. So in the pilot development phase, the RFA awardee will be working with our innovation supports team, as well as Chloe and myself, to design and develop the pilot program. And then in the second phase, they go into implementation. And in that implementation, that we really want to center the continuous quality improvement as well. So as you're implementing, we want organizations to think about and reflect on what's working, what's not working, and adapt and adjust as needed to ensure that the needs of the priority population is best met. And then the last stage, we have a post-evaluation. So we're going to wrap up the evaluation data collection and then develop a report to really help King County and BSK know what we can do in the future to continue these efforts and get those recommendations. And then again, for visual folks like myself, here is a visual of what those stages look like. So we anticipate the first 2 months to be the initial pilot development. And then in the next 3 months, we'll have a continuous pilot development. And in that 3 months, there will be the launch of the program itself, the pilot implementation. So the pilot implementation will be about 27 to 30 months. And while the organization's implementing, again, we want to center CQI. So there will be evaluation activities taking place, as well as a continuous reflection on what's working and what's not working. And then the pilot will stop implementation, and the last 4 months will have a reflection on the evaluation. Right. So we'll pause right there for some questions. Okay, and I'm just going to check to make sure there's nothing in the chat. Okay.
Right. And we'll also have an opportunity for questions at the end. Before I begin more specifics on this RFA, I'm going to drop our blog post as well as well, I thought I was going to drop the direct link to the Zoom grants application, and it timed out. So I'll have to get that for you at the end, unless Hannah, you can find our actual Zoom grants short link. And let me go over a little bit about this RFA. We anticipate awarding 1 organization for this pilot project. We will have $406,000 to be available for the period of this 3-year contract for this pilot. This RFA was released on June 25th, and it will close on August 13th at 2 p.m. We anticipate the contract period being November 1st of this year through October 31st, 2027. So to respond to the chat, that is one organization that we anticipate awarding.
Chloe?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Chloe. I'm Mari Kim.
Hi.
Hi. So I just wanted to double check. It's one organization receiving the whole amount. And
Yeah.
Do we have to have particularly established partnerships with hospitals, et cetera, for that to be? So those are the kinds of requirements. You're shaking your head. That's good news for some of us.
No, we'll go into the requirements a little bit farther down here.
Okay.
I think the wording is a willingness or partnership, like willingness to partner or existing partnerships with our partner agencies. It would be more working collaboration with the home-based services and community-based parenting supports partner programs. If those relationships exist, that's wonderful. If there's just a willingness to connect and collaborate, that's wonderful as well.
And when you're calling it a pilot, does the program have to be absolutely new, or can it be currently working and in the process of evolving?
This specific pilot will be a new pilot that we will work together to collaborate on.
Great.
However, we anticipate, and part of the requirements for the applicant is that the organization have experience providing domestic violence supports in King County for a minimum of 3 years. So we don't, but the specifics of this exact pilot for this exact funding we can work through the nuances together. If there's existing program components that this is connecting with, that would be appropriate.
Thank you.
Okay. So you will be able to find this timeline in our actual RFA document, but it might be helpful just to see here. We are right in the July information sessions. The RFA is still going to be open for a little less than 1 more month. Applications are due by 2 p.m. on August 13th through Zoom grants. Strongly recommend you don't wait till the last hour, because Zoom grants can choose not to work at that final hour. So please think about getting this in a timely manner. Between August 19th and September 5th, a review panel will be reviewing the applications and identifying the awarded applicant. Those applicants will be likely notified sometime in October with the anticipated start date of November. Just want to make sure I didn't. A little bit more about the funds in this award. We anticipate 2 types of funds to be provided to the awarded applicant. And while some of the funds might be provided up front, the total amount should not exceed the cost to perform the work, and that's reconciled in quarterly reporting. We can go more about that when it becomes relevant with the awarded applicant. But the 2 kinds of funds to be aware of in planning and considering budget development are startup funds, which are given in two periods. One is the initial pilot development, November to December, for the first 2 months if it of our RFA, as well as the following 3 months in a second burst. Then base funds will be provided throughout the implementation and evaluation phases. This RFA is open to all nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations, tribes and tribal organizations, and public for-profit entities, as well as public or governmental agencies serving communities in King County. We strongly encourage small nonprofits and community-based organizations to submit applications. Some of the eligibility criteria include being an organization or a program whose primary mission is to provide support to individuals experiencing or at risk of experiencing domestic violence. To have been directly supporting survivors of domestic violence for a minimum of 3 years, to serve King County communities, and to work with or demonstrate a willingness to work with our prenatal to 5 partner programs. Some other funding priorities that will come through in the application questions are demonstrate experience providing domestic violence response services, being able to demonstrate experience providing cross-sector collaboration, to demonstrate readiness to engage in this work, to demonstrate a history of embeddedness in communities in King County, and to demonstrate experience with data collection, analysis, storytelling, and evaluation. The narrative questions in this RFA are broken into 3 categories. The first speak to the demonstrated experience meeting the needs of King County families experiencing or at risk of experiencing domestic violence. The second category of questions speak to the demonstrated readiness to engage and experience with providing cross-sector collaboration. And the final category of narrative questions is the demonstrated readiness to engage and experience with continuous quality improvement, data collection, analysis, storytelling, and/or evaluation. At the end of when the RFA proposal application deadline is complete, the applications will be shared with a review panel to assess and review these narrative questions and score them. This is a breakdown of our scoring criteria, and more details can be found in the actual RFA document of what will be looked at for each of the questions. Completed applications include an answer to all narrative questions and summary questions such as who your organization is and zip code questions like where your organization serves. We are also requested the attachment of a budget, a 3-year budget. It will not be scored, but it is helpful for us to understand how you plan to use the funds so that we can move into the actionable steps if this application is selected. And we also give the option to attach an unscored letter of support. I'm going to break from the screen share so I can see a little bit better if there are any questions, and we can always pull it back up. Are there any questions that we can answer?
All right. And do you have any minimums for the general operating budget that the small org should have? Do you have any kind of constrictions like that? Great.
No.
Of the 400,000, in terms of budget development, is there a percentage you're expecting to go to salaries? Is that like 10 for admin, rent, etc.? But for salary, is there anything like that?
No, I think that we tend to look to our partners to share what their true costs are and what it really takes to do the work well.
So you would anticipate that we identify staff for this position, the new pilot, and the account for the staff time that would be used for developing this new pilot.
Yes, there's specifically time. We're thinking of time specifically that there would take to not only develop the pilot in the initial 2 months, but probably some extra in the first 3 months, and then that continual adaptation to make sure if things aren't working, we keep making them better. We don't wait for the end.
And so you already have prenatal to 5 providers in mind to work with, and you're looking for an org that's willing to work with them and other partners as needed, someone that's at least minimum 3 years experience, someone that's focused, an org that's focused specifically on DV.
So the applicant applying should be an organization who has at least 3 years of experience supporting families who have experienced DV.
Okay. I'm going to pass off to Rahma. I was holding her space for her. Thanks.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. I hope you all are doing good. Sorry, I had Mary and Shaime join a little bit early. I wasn't able to join, but good to have you all here. I don't have any questions. I think Mari asked as many. Dr. Kim asked all the questions that I had in mind.
Thanks for coming.
Just any other questions that anyone's thinking about? All right. Well, if anything comes up, Phil will be the point of contact to send questions to. Thank you all for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks
Thanks
very
for
much.
being
Thank
here.
you.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.